Good evening, early birds. Hey, friends, how are we all doing? You might have seen York starting to wake up a bit. It's getting very, very exciting out here. So we're just going to hang out here for a few moments until it's time to begin. Good evening all, good evening all, good evening all. So just a few announcements before we begin. We are employing some modern technology tonight. We're using some kind of device welded to the front of the handlebars of the Deathly Mobile that should offer us a reasonably stable ride around the city of York. I tried this a number of ways. I tried affixing the mobile device to my head. I tried holding it in my hand with a stick. It all looked terrible. I've gone the science route. So it should look okay, should sound okay. I'm using the usual microphone, fluffy little chap clipped to my tie. But at the moment, we're just on the outskirts of the city. We are just on Tadcastle Road, just up the road from the Knavesmire, from Turpin's Grave, where we're going to end up tonight. I keep saying Turpin's Grave, it's not Turpin's Grave. We will be visiting Turpin's Grave in the middle of the tour, but we'll be visiting the Knavesmire, the hanging ground where Turpin's stone currently lies. That's what it is. There's a couple of stones in York that are relevant to the chap. Good evening all, good evening all. Now, and another thing is, I'll be keeping an eye on it. Maybe from time to time this little gadget might fail and I'll have to quickly reset it. I've got it down to a few seconds. So if at any point you start seeing pavement spinning wildly, I'm all right, I've not died. I'm just having a little bit of a technical error. I can normally pull it back within a few seconds. But them's the brakes. And a big difference tonight is that Mrs. Deathley is not monitoring the comments. She is cycling along behind me to make sure that I don't end up in a predicament. So feel free to chat away, chat to each other, make some new friends on this lovely, lovely Yorkshire evening. And then we'll catch up with all the comments after the tour. Expecting it to last a little bit over an hour tonight. And a little reminder, don't click any links that are not posted by friendly looking faces. Anything that's a long stream of letters and numbers, we can't keep an eye on it tonight. It would be horrific spam. So just leave it well be, don't get involved. And as always, I'll mention it once at the beginning and I'll maybe mention it in the middle and maybe once toward the end if you are feeling a little bit generous. The virtual tipping jar is wide open. I've not got it into the information for this stream, but it'll be on the page somewhere, paypal.me/Dorian Deathley. I'll slap a link up on the page at the end of the night. Well, I've been looking forward to this for a while. I'm a bit nervous, I'll be honest with you, friends, because I'm going a little bit off my regular route. We're not going to be going through the city centre. We're going to be going around the outside. The reason why I thought I'd mount it into my bike is because it gets us a little bit further out. If you've ever joined me for a Ghost Bus tour of the grand and delectable city of York, you'll know that we do a big old donut around the ring road. We work and weave our way through the city centre. But to do this route on foot would take, I think, about 2-3 hours. It's quite a long way around. So, yeah, I'm just checking on the time. Give it a few minutes and then we'll roll off, see what there is to see. So we're going to start tonight. We're just going to roll a little bit down the road and we're going to end up at the Everyman Cinema, the old Odeon of York. I'm not going to say too much about it because I'm going to talk about it when we get there. As always, feel free to share, pop the link up all over the place. If someone wouldn't mind sharing the link inside the event for us, that would be great because we don't have access to our gadgets at the moment. Actually, I'm lying. What am I talking about? I've got a secondary gadget in my pocket. I've got an emergency gadget with me just in case something went horribly wrong. So ignore that, carry on, sit back, fill up your glasses, and in a moment or two we're going to roll out and go and see what there is to see. Share, there we go. Using that modern technology. Oh. No, it doesn't like that at all. I'm going to abandon that. This is why I talk about old things. I don't really get along with modern trickery. Excuse my fingers there. There we go. Let's get to swipe that out of the way. 60 seconds and we're going to mount up and roll out into the wild streets of York. Hey, I tell you what, guys, this is a first, isn't it? I don't think anyone's live streamed a tour from a bicycle before. This seems very irresponsible. But we'll get out there and we'll see what's what. And just before we set off, final announcements. We've made a decision to up the tempo a little bit. Rather than doing this sort of thing once every Sunday, every 2 Sundays, we're going to go every Sunday night. We're going to do alternating, I should say, Tales from the Fireplace one Sunday, and then some kind of tour the Sunday after that. So the tours will still be every second Sunday. We're just going to intersperse them with a Tales from the Fireplace. So there'll be something happening every Sunday night, because we got a bit restless, truth be told. But I think it's about time. I'm just going to reverse back a little bit. Get over these cobbles. I'm going to mount the Deathly Mobile. I'm going to pop the camera facing forwards. Come on now, do as you're told. There we go. And let's do it. Welcome, friends, to the Tour Death Yorkshire. Now, I'm a bit nervous because the first bit was all cobblestones, and this little gadget does not like cobblestones very much at all. We've reached maximum deathly speed. This is about as fast as we'll be going tonight, just so I don't get too out of breath. So I'm not the fit and healthy young man that I used to be. We'll see what there is. So at the moment we're making our way down Tadcaster Road. We've hit a red light already. Just a quick side note, if you're a big fan of traffic lights, you can have a wonderful evening. There are currently 7,418 sets of traffic lights surrounding the streets of York. We will be visiting every single one of them for your viewing pleasure. This is set number 1. More to follow. Still there, Mrs. Deathley, she's still lurking behind us. So we're going to get our way through here. You might just make out Micklegate Bar straight ahead. 12 o'clock dead ahead. There's a Mini Cooper raging its way towards it. This must be an odd sight for anybody out of context. There's a man in an old-fashioned suit and tie, sat atop a bicycle with some modern technology strapped to the front of it. It's been said that people have actually died on the ring road of York. They hit those traffic lights and time just seems to slow down. He doesn't care. Look at that. Look at that danger boy. Wow. This is why cyclists get a bad press in York, you know. That's why they get frowned at. And we're off. There's an orange light. The feet are pedalling. And they're charging their way through into the city of York. Stop number 1 approaching. The York Everyman, otherwise known as the Odeon Cinema, which opened its doors in 1937. Now we've gone all this way, and in a moment we're going to stop. And I'm going to detach myself from the bike and have a lovely little wander around. Handy little bike rack coming up over there. Cracking. So here we go. Next to the old subway. Dismount, smoothly done. Bike park. And off we go. Stay there, Deathly Mobile. Be a good boy. There we go, lovely. Right, we're on foot now. We're going to make our way around to the front of the building. You might just make out there some lovely new branding. The Everyman of York. And we have the canopy here. Lovely blue skies. And when it's open, all this is lit up. All these little lights under here sparkle. It looks magnificent. And I'm just going to make my way around to the side here. Here we go. Everyman of York. Now you might just make out, if I can get up high enough, the E. The original Odeon sign. Maybe if I go towards the side a bit more. There we go. You can see that the E is illuminated in the original sign. Now this building opened its doors in 1937, and at the moment it has 4 screens. They've got a lovely message up to the key workers currently keeping the world ticking round. And when they decided to renovate this site, if you know anything about it, you'll know it was an Odeon first, one single screen. It became a real cinema, R-E-E-L. And then the Everyman took it over. And when they took it over, they decided to keep the E illuminated. They weren't allowed to take the sign down. It's an important part of the heritage of the building. So they decided to just wire up the E and leave that ticking away. 4 screens now. And when they opened it up, here's the thing. They uncovered something very peculiar indeed. Hello, friends, here I am, it's me. Make sure I can just, oh, there I am. When they started renovating the building, something very peculiar started happening. People started reporting odd occurrences, forgetfulness, things not being quite where they should have been. The staff working there to this day, including Mrs. Deathley herself, so this is a first-hand account, have said that they've seen a very tall gentleman wearing an old-fashioned suit. And they've nicknamed him, I believe, Gary, which is not the best name for a ghost, truth be told. Lovely Gary. He's often seen, his little face poking through the windows. People have gone in there to watch a film, thinking they're in the screen on their own. And suddenly, they felt this very odd sensation as if they've been watched. And they feel as if they're no longer in the screen on their own. Let's see if I can smoothly attach this back onto the bike. Thank you, Mrs. Deathley. Now, it's not the most haunted building in York, but it's one of my favourite ones. 4 screens currently inhabit it. There was one. And people have often seen this gentleman sitting where there aren't any seats. They actually see his form perched as if he's sitting on a seat that cannot be seen by the naked eye. And of course, it would mean that he's sitting in one of the original seats. You see, when it was one single screen, before the balconies went in, before the extra spaces went in, there would have been seats where there are currently not seats. They've got lovely sofas and whatnot now. It would have been the old seats that folded out, the old theatre seats. He's quite a harmless ghost. I thought I'd start us off nice and slow tonight. Deliveroo rider, chase him down, see what he's got. We're making our way now towards Micklegate Bar, Traitor's Gate, the entrance to the city of York itself. And we have the Windmill pub just here to the left. And it feels like we've barely even left the road. We're going to come to a stop once again. I won't dismount the bike this time. I'll simply grab me doodad and hoy it up. There she is. Dead ahead, Micklegate Bar. Traffic light set number 3. And the Windmill pub just here to my left. Now, this used to be an official entranceway for the monarchy. If the Queen of England, any royal, decided they wanted to come into York, they'd have to make their way through that gatehouse there, wait for the Lord Mayor of York to appear and ask permission to enter the city. Doesn't happen these days. Not quite as official as it used to anyway. I mean, she's quite busy, you know, she's going to drive straight through the gap. I'm not going to jump out in front of her, wave her down, give her a telling off. I think that's high treason. Well, this gate used to be staffed by one of the gatekeepers. And this chap, in the olden days, one of the last employees looking after the spot, he had a young daughter, the name of Sarah Brocklebank. Now, for his good work, he was actually awarded the keys to the city. It was a physical reward that he was given for his grand work. And she lost it. He said that when she was a small child, she was playing with the key, it was lost. He wasn't very happy, but he forgave her. But to a small child, it was the ultimate sin. Now, her father sadly passed away a few months later. A young Sarah Brocklebank dedicated her entire life to finding that key. She would often be seen scavenging around the tips and the dumps of the city. Of course, we used to just eject all of our waste and refuge over the city walls. Towards the end of it all, she was seen as an elderly woman with a shock of grey hair, and she'd be digging and clawing her way through the waste, desperately trying to find that missing key. Drove her mad, actually went insane in the end. Spent a few years in and out of institutions. As soon as she was released, she was always back out there on the hunt for that very key. People making their way through Micklegate Bar these days, it's a museum at the moment, in fact, like many of the bars and gates into our city. Coffee houses or museums. They say they hear the sound of a young girl laughing and tittering. It's often accompanied by the sound of a set of keys jingling and jangling away. Ooh. To the left, the Windmill Pub. Now we're lucky tonight because there's normally an awful stink here to do with these. The drains just there. A bit of an odd smell will emanate around these parts. Ooh, rum, rum, rum. Someone's compensating for something. The Windmill Pub has stood here for many, many, many decades, centuries in fact. And these days, beer is delivered by a large cart, a truck, I think is what they call them in modern times, a lorry, a van. Of course, in the olden times, it arrived by horse and cart. And it's said that the landlord was in there having a few drinks, and his daughter, a young girl, was outside, started playing with the latch on the back of the horse and cart, and it failed. And suddenly, all the beer barrels tumbled out into the road, and tragically and unfortunately, and heartbreakingly, crushed the young girl to death. Even to this very day, there's an odd smell that emanates around these parts, kind of sulfuric in nature, that kind of rotten, eggy smell. They can't quite put their finger on what it is. The two are almost certainly unconnected, but people have asked questions as to whether or not something slightly more sinister may be going on. Right, we're off. Wheels up. Mrs. Deathley's with me, struggling a bit, bless her. And we're going to make our way round towards the train station of York. If you look just there on the left, you'll see the Green Beetle, recently painted. Fine artwork. I'm not entirely sure who was responsible for the Green Beetle, but I do give it a little wave on the way past. We're going to make our way up. Station Rise. Named Station Rise brilliantly because it's next to the station and I'm going up a hill. Absolutely magnificent. You can't make this stuff up, friends. And we're just going to get to the top and we're going to come to a stop just about here. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Deathley, I could do with some brake lights, couldn't I? We're going to pop our way in, tuck ourselves out a bit. Ooh, here we go. And I'll detach once again. Just want to share this with you. Look at that. So most of you, if you visit York by train, this is where you're going to arrive. You're going to pop up at the train station here. The first one appeared, a small wooden shack in the 1800s. The old York station, over there somewhere, but they got rid of it because at some point all the trains coming in had to reverse out, do a little 3-point turn before they could escape back to wherever they came from. And just over the road here, this is the new York station, which opened up not that long ago in the grand scheme of our city. Now, I don't know if you can make this out because of the contrast between the sky and the building, but you might see these little round windows just here. These little tiny round windows built into the side of the architecture. Now, these have got a cracking little name, but I'm going to tell you the story first. Back when trains first started, they were like wooden boxes on wheels. There were no corridors, there were no windows leading in and out. There's no conductors moving up and down the carriages. Tickets, please, tickets, please. And a man named Franz Muller got into an argument with a gentleman on a train down in London. The argument escalated and he murdered him between the stations. He actually stabbed him a few times, opened up the carriage and hurled the body out off into the undergrowth. Now, there's a whole story about how Franz Muller fled to America, escaped the law, was extradited. He was brought back into England. He was hanged in London. And his final words were simply, "I did it." In the final moments, he confessed everything. But the interesting thing was this. After that murder took place, people started questioning the security of train compartments. Can we allow people just to be shut away willy-nilly? We can't see what's going on, we can't keep an eye. And as a result, trains started to be redeveloped. As we know them today, we started getting trains with the corridors, with the doors. We started getting little train compartments with little round windows built into them. And some people have hysterically nicknamed these windows because they're little round windows that let light in, because the little round windows that let light in that were built really because of something that Franz Muller did. You're not ready, friends, you're not ready. They're nicknamed Muller's lights. Oh, thanks, Mrs. Deathley. Punctuating the joke there with a little tinkle on the bell. Muller's lights. Absolutely adorable. Now, the station was bombed heavily in the World War II. 800 refugees came into the city the night of a bombing. They had to be evacuated from the train incredibly quickly. But a station warden actually went back in to retrieve a first aid kit to help some of the wounded, and sadly got trapped and perished in the fire. It is said on a cold, dark autumn night, close to the time of year that fateful accident took place, you will see this gentleman standing on one of the bridges that crosses the tracks, wearing the old-fashioned station master's uniforms. Ooh. So once again, we're just going to roll down past the train station, a little further on. Oh, tiny malfunction on the beginning there. Let me just get him back. There we go. Told you I could fix it pretty quickly. Hopefully that won't detract too much from the fun. And we're just going to get ourselves down here. And then we're going to make our way across this crossing. We're going to hop off our bikes and just cross over the road. Just bear with us a moment, folks, while we... So obviously we're manoeuvring around as safely and as sensibly as we can. Great stuff. He says, almost getting run over by a speeding hatchback. There we go. I thought it was going to change. And we're just going to make our way over the road to the Cholera Burial Ground. I know, right? You cannot move in this city for something bizarre. I'm just going to pop my little bicycle up here. Helly up. And then, very good. So where we are, train station, just over the road there. You've got the Station Hotel, or the Principal of York, or the Chapter House Pub. It has so many names, it changes all the time. And we have a little commemorative stone just down here. Cholera Burial Ground, there's the word, specially acquired for the burial of some of the 185 victims. The plague of cholera, which lasted from the 3rd of June to the 2nd of October 1832. There are 20 surviving memorial stones of Stansted. Now, at the moment, it's a bit of a dark one to be talking about things like this, what with everything that's going on, but York is littered with this kind of history. You've got to remember, this is just over the road there, train station, welcome to York. Got a lovely hotel with a modern bar in, got a big doorway to the Principal Hotel, and then just here we have 20 headstones. People just buried here, marking the site of it. Now, cholera arrived in the 1800s, and it claimed the lives of around 185 people in a matter of 5 months. Now, cholera, and I think it's great that this chap's right here, cholera was known by a few names. It was known as the Blue Death because your skin would turn a very pale bluish colour due to dehydration. It was also known as the grey squirts because due to the dehydration you couldn't properly digest anything and everything that came out of you was a horrible grey colour. I hope you're not eating your dinner right now because that is incredibly unpleasant indeed. You might see Mrs. Deathley just lurking around in the background there, guarding the bike, chugging down from a bottle of whiskey. Now, the pigeon thing is an interesting one. Now, these days, thankfully, we're a little bit better at medicine, aren't we? We've kind of evolved a little bit over the years. One thing that they used to do, and I apologise for the grisly grimness of this, was known as a pigeon poultice. If you got an infected part of your body, one thing they would often do was get a pigeon, and they would just crack it open like an egg, and they would clasp it down on top of you, like a poultice, a pigeon poultice. The idea was that the warmth of the pigeon would, like, draw the disease and the inflammation out. It didn't work, oddly. It didn't work. It wasn't the best idea. If you do get some kind of welt or abrasion, I don't suggest that you just split open a pigeon and slap it on there. That's a terrible, terrible idea. So we're just going to make our way back to the bicycle. And now we're actually going to cover a little bit of distance now. We're going to make our way from the station round towards Lendal Bridge, round towards the Yorkshire Museum Gardens, the Minster, the Theatre Royal. It's a real hotbed over there. But just at the train stations where I normally start my ghostly bus tours from. The thing about York is there's not really any avoiding it. There is death and decay literally built atop a foundation of it. It is said that there are now over 500,000 sleeping, shall we say, beneath our streets. Sounds like a mad number, but when you do the maths, add it up, it actually all makes sense. Here we go. Just going to carry on. And for those of you concerned, I just want to stress, I'm pushing my bike at the moment. I'm not riding on the pavement like a no-good renegade. We're being very respectful. We're good cyclists. We're very, very good cyclists. Oh, just quickly, before we go any further, there's George Lehman. Statue of George Lehman there, otherwise known as the Railway King of York. He was a naughty one. Maybe more about him on another time. So we're on the road, we're going to mount up, and we're off into the wilds of York, round towards Lendal Bridge. Now we're going to make our way through the city walls, through the archway, a rather modern addition, added in the olden times. Make sure Mrs. Deathley's still with me. Whee! Got a modern opening here to allow, well, normally to allow large buses and vehicles through, but at the moment I'm just a bicycle. I'm a cyclist, I don't need that much headroom. And we're going to turn our way around onto Lendal Bridge. Now the first version of Lendal Bridge was actually built in the 1800s, and it fell in halfway through being built, and it claimed the lives of 5 workmen. The bridge metalwork failed with a terrible scream and a groan. Down they went, the bridge landing on top of them, their bodies never really recovered. The story has been known over the time as many things. I like to call it the lost labourers of Lendal Bridge. To this day, if you make your way down the slip road next to the bridge, Dame Judi Dench Walk, we're about to stop in a second, you'll often see an image of 5 gentlemen sitting on the opposing side of the river, their feet dangling over the edge. You hear them laughing and singing, joking, having a wonderful time of it all, which is odd because I don't know about you, if I've been squashed to death by a falling bridge while freezing and drowning simultaneously, I'd probably be a little bit irritated about it, but apparently time heals all wounds. Oh, look who's sneaking up in front of us. It's the York Minster. We are just going to pull ourselves over here, have a little shuffle around. Whew. Just going to pop my bike up to rest, and I'll detach and we'll go for a little walk again. There we are. Swoosh. So over here, this is Dame Judi Dench Walk. This here leads down towards where the City Cruises boats pick up from, down towards the river itself, past the Star Inn. I think at one point I might do a haunted pub tour. Obviously we won't go in them all because they're closed, and about 4 or 5 in I don't think I'll be in a very coherent state. That then leads down towards Judge's Lodgings, Lendal Bridge behind me, and over here we have the Yorkshire Museum Gardens, and we have the ruins of St Leonard's Church and Hospital. Let's see what we can see. I'm going to start with the gardens. Firstly, adorably, this is where Mrs. Deathley and I got married last year before the world went mad. October 10th, 2019, just down at the Hospitium, which is just tucked down there somewhere. There's a few spirits that roam the gardens. The first one I'll tell you about is a chap known as the Black Abbot of York. He was a religious fellow. They said he was murdered at the start of the last millennium for his gambling habits. He strung up a long row of bills, owed the wrong sort of people. He was accosted by a few wrongdoers. He was murdered at the back of the gardens. His spirit is often seen roaming around in there on a cold, wet winter's night. He appears as an impossibly tall fellow, a thick black robe, fraying cloth hanging loosely at the toes. The peculiar thing is he appears to be drifting somewhat, as if his feet are buckled in behind him. Ugh. They do lock the gardens at the moment, obviously because of everything that's going on, but they do lock them at a certain point at night. You're not allowed to go in here after dark. They say for reasons of health and safety, but between you and I think something else might be unfurling. Just over here we do have the ruins and remains of the church and hospital of St Leonard. Now you can actually go in here when the gardens are open. You can go through the gate that I was just looking at, and I don't know if you can see it, just poking through the foliage there is a small tunnel, and it's covered in all kinds of boards and information. Now, it was a church and a hospital in the olden times. That's the way it used to be. It was often the case that any medical help that would be given to you would often be only given to you until they had cleansed your spirit first. The healing of a physical nature would come after the spiritual had been washed clean. In this old building used to make its way all the way along there and connect it to where the Theatre Royal is. Now, just over there, you can see the York Minster rather cheekily peeking up. And I think we're going to go take a little visit. We're going to go say a little bit of a hello to the lovely old bird. See what she's got to say for herself. We won't hang around the Minster too much, because we will be visiting her in full on the next stream, which will not be on a bicycle. Because as fun as this is, it is quite... it's quite bizarre. I've got a lot to think about. Pedal, get the thing in the thing, don't get run over, obey the traffic laws, be a good cyclist, and more. Here we go, let's approach her. Oh, there's the site. That's worth your ticket money, isn't it? That's worth the entrance fee. So the Minster there, glorious, beautiful, splendid, magnificent. We might take a little roll up to her and turn around. I won't waffle on too much about this one. It's haunted by a few ghosts, many ghosts. I mean, I can literally pull over and talk about them forever and ever and ever. Hey, ho! That seemed unnecessary. Yikes. Okay, hands up who jumped out of their seats. I did, I'm on a bicycle. Oh, that was it was right behind me. Oh my gosh. Hello. Mrs. Death nearly crashed right at my bumhole then. There you go, look at that. Beautiful blue skies. Just framing the top of the Minster there. Oh, let's just take... I know I'm all about the grim and the ghastly goings on, but you can't not love that. Look at the absolute state of the lovely old bird. As I say, we'll be making our way around here and we'll do a little lap of the Minster on the tour that we do in a couple of weeks' time. But I don't want to be repeating myself too much, so we ain't going to hang around here too much this evening. Let me just get my little doodad back into place, show it's safe to go. And we're going to head round towards the York Theatre Royal. See you in a couple of weeks, your lovely old building. So we're now going to turn from Duncan Place, formerly Lop Lane, onto St Leonard's Place. I just squeezed through the lights there. Here comes Mrs. Deathley. Oh, she's chasing us. And we're going to make our way to St Leonard's Place, and we're just going to pull over there, just opposite Booth and Bar. We're surrounded by history here. I hope this is all quite informative. I realise I'm moving relatively quickly. I suppose you could just put some nice music on and just enjoy this point of view cycle around the fantastic city of York. Here we go. So, parking up, detaching the gadget, the York Theatre Royal. There she blows. So the Theatre Royal is actually built on the original foundations of the Church of St Leonard's, the Hospital of St Leonard's. They're constantly evolving. You can see the old meeting the new. Even recently, in the last few years, since I've lived in York, I've lived here for about 10 years now. You used to be able to wander around underneath those little archways, get out of the rain and the weather, but now they've all sealed in. They're turning it into part of the restaurant and the cafe. There are small glass blocks inside of the building that you can actually stand on top of. You can look down, you can see the original foundations of the original building. There are faces etched into the stone, staring out from just above the top of the middle window there, below the shutters. You could stand here and just, your eyes just dance across it. The more you see, you're just constantly discovering new and interesting elements. It's fantastic. Now, the theatre itself, I'm not saying actors are a very supernatural bunch, but they do often report some goings on. There's the Dandy of York. He was a young actor who fell in love, got involved in a duel not far from here, was actually shot and died. He thought the whole thing would just be a little bit of theatre, you know, wave a pistol around, la-di-da. People watching the play that night, his understudy had gone on, say that they saw him clear as day. The moment he was shot, a few streets over from here, he strode out onto the stage without a care in the world, took a bow and disappeared. The Grey Lady of York was a nun who fell in love in the olden days, back known as the church and the hospital of St. Leonard's. Who fell in love, committed the ultimate sin, bit of the old rumpety-bumpety, bit of the old how's your father. Didn't do it once, twice, 3 times. Some people say this old nun made a habit of it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I promised myself I wouldn't do that many puns tonight, but I just can't help it. She was thrown into a stone windowless room. The doorway was bricked up behind her. She was left to die alone in the darkness. We have no idea what ultimately took her life: malnutrition, starvation, dehydration. All we know is the body was never recovered until this very day. People say they hear a sound of her desperately clawing at the inside of the dressing room walls, begging for release. They hear her whispering over the communicational headsets, "Let me out. Let me out. Let me out." The Grey Rooms of York, just over here. Sometimes the Grey Lady is sighted standing in the windows of the old ballroom, dating back to the Victorian times. Got Booth and Bar, just standing on the corner there. This was the last Barbican tunnel to be destroyed in York. There used to be a long tunnel that came out the front of it. Inner door, outer door. If your name's not down, you're not coming in. With these great big wooden doors and a massive pair of dangling knockers poking out the front. If you wanted to get into York, you had to grab hold of the knockers, swing them about a bit, and ask permission to enter the city. Times have changed, haven't they? Times have changed. Got the York Art Gallery just over here to our left. Statue of William Etty, the pioneer of photography. And again, we're not going to hobble around here too much because I've noticed it's nearly 9 o'clock. And I do want to get a little bit further into the city for you tonight. So we're now going to head out onto Gillygate. Gillygate of York, otherwise known as Giles Street. You're going to kind of be point of view for a little while, friends, as I make my way through the city. We're going to head from here round Gillygate, Lord Mayor's Walk, to Monkgate Bar towards the old county hospital. Now, Gillygate of York is an interesting one. I talked briefly about the cholera, the Blue Death, when the Black Death arrived in York. The bubonic plague, the pneumonic plague, the septicemic plague. 3,500 people died in a matter of 2 years. And to stop the disease from spreading, they attempted quarantine. Lockdown, I suppose, very relevant to what's going on today. Although back then, well, they meant it. If you displayed any symptoms of the bubonic plague, the pneumonic plague, the septicemic plague, they would follow you home and they would lay heavy planks and wooden boards over your doors, over your windows. They would then hammer in thick, ragged nails, trapping you inside, and they would paint a red X upon the door to mark it as unsafe, unsanitary. Death inside awaits. Do not open. You guys see that? I think I just got cheated by a traffic light. There we go. Orange, safe to go. And we're off, making our way around the corner of Bootham, Lord Mayor's Walk and Gillygate. So if you make your way down Gillygate and you happen to look up, which I can't really do at the moment because I'm cycling along, you might see windows that have been bricked up. In fact, if you ever see in your hometowns, if you live in somewhere that's been around for a while, windows that are bricked up close, might just be a renovation, might be the window tax. Some bright spark in the olden times had a fantastic idea. They essentially started taxing sunlight. If you had too many windows in your property, they started stinging you with a bit of a tax bill. So people in York retaliated by bricking up the windows. Kind of a up yours to the rich and wealthy who are really stinging the poor folk. Imagine that. You've got too much sunlight coming into your house. I mean, could you imagine it in this day and age? Yes, you could, couldn't you? You absolutely could. Now, just here on the left-hand side, the Salvation Army Citadel about to roll into view. It's this large white and red building to our left. This is where the old church of St Giles used to stand. St Giles Street, Julie Gate. Gate meant street. Garter, the olden time word. The graveyard, or the plague pit, didn't stand far from here. 3,500 dead. The idea was if we buried them all in the same spot, the disease wouldn't spread. We'd keep it all under control. Didn't work. As I said, 3,500 people died in a matter of 2 years. Very upsetting indeed. And that was just in the city of York. Just in the city of York. It's all too relatable at the moment, isn't it? On that note, I hope you're all safe and well. Tucked away. Oh, now that chap. Maybe that's the next tour. I'll get a mini convertible and I'll just start poking this thing all over the place. So we're making our way down Lord Mayor's Walk now. To our left we have the York St John University. And to the right we have the city walls, just poking into view there. Grade 1 and 2 listed buildings. Frowned upon. My suggestion to paint them a shade of delicious hot pink. Very upsetting. We have the beautiful York St John University just coming up there to that side. If you can see that one. Lovely. That's where I was educated. And it's, well, look what I'm doing for a living. Make up your own mind, friends. Make up your own mind. So we're going to make our way down towards Monk Gate Bar, Monk Bar. Call it what you will. I've heard people call it both over the years. Monk Bar, I think, of the area. Monk Barbican, Monk Gate Barbican stands at the end of Monk Gate. It's not called Warm Bar, is it? Or Mickle Bar. It's Mickle Gate Bar, Monk Gate Bar. Let's fight. Not right now, I'm riding a bicycle. And you can actually just see to the top right of the image there, the Wild Men of York, statues standing on top of the Barbican Tunnel. This was an absolute fortress, because if you wanted something kept safe and sound, you'd stick it on the top floor. And you had these awful narrow staircases and corridors to get through. If you wanted something stashed away safe in there, that's where you keep it. You have little stone rivers you could pour hot oil down. Absolute fortified madness. We go down now the thick arterial vein of Monk Bar. We're going to hang a right towards the old York County Hospital. Checks over the shoulder, clear indication, remembering his cycling proficiency, towards Monkgate Cloisters. Now normally when I'm on the bus I go straight on round the roundabout, but obviously tonight I don't have to do that. And here she is. Let's just stop here for a brief moment. There you go. So standing at the end of Monkgate Cloisters here, these days is a block of flats. Lovely flats, people living there, having an all right time. But this is a site of the old York County Hospital, which opened its doors in the 1700s. Ah, thank you, Mrs. Deathley. She's furnished me with liquid refreshment. Oh, that's paint thinner. Oh, refreshing. In the 1970s, the building had been long condemned for health and safety violations. People started moving in there. People live in there now. Lovely private apartments, private car park. Got one of those fancy beep, boop, boop, boop gate things to keep out the ruffians. But obviously you can't live in a building where essentially medical experimentation took place. In the olden days, the only way to really understand how the human body worked was to crack it open, get your arms in there and see what was what. A lot of people died over the years. A little bit out of our reach, of course, we have the old York Asylum up at Bootham. That's where some very dark and questionable things happened. I might do an entire video dedicated to that place in the future. It's off our track at the moment, so we won't cover it tonight. People have reported hearing the sounds of surgical tools being rearranged atop of sterile medical shelving. Kind of a faint tinkle, tinkle, tinkle coming out from the staircases. You see a gentleman wearing a white coat moving around the end of the corridors. One woman who's lived there for a while swears blind that every time she goes to sleep, 4 or 5 times a year, she will wake up and she will see a gentleman standing at the end of the bed wearing a long, dusty coat, little half-moon glasses perched on the end of his nose, seemingly studying her, taking notes while she sleeps. She'll get up, she'll turn on the light, she'll demand to know who he is, what he's doing there. He just simply disappears, fades away, right in front of her eyes. Here's the front door of the building. Magnificent there. York County Hospital, 1740 to 1970s. Lovely. I love that people live in these old buildings now. You'd never get me living in an old abandoned hospital. In front of us now, friends, Sainsbury's. Oh, cyclists dismount. Absolutely. Follow the rules. Sainsbury's not being the most haunted part of the city of York, or indeed the most haunted part of the tour, but it's a necessary evil as we sneak our way through onto Foss Island Road, heading around towards yet another pub, the Black Swan, one of the most haunted pubs in the entire city of York. Again, a little bit too far off the track for the walking tours, so we're going to visit her tonight while we're wheeled up, see what there is to see. This whole area, actually, as we make our way around, quick extra bonus, this whole area floods horrifically. Something that stems back to when William the Conqueror lived here. He wanted a moat around his castle near Clifford's Tower. He tried to build a rudimentary dam, it went horribly wrong. This is the first recorded flooding that we know of. And it is said that half a dozen gentlemen were swept away when the dam burst. And those gentlemen's bodies were never ever found again. People making their way over the bridges say that they often hear sounds of these gentlemen's voices calling out in terror. People have been said to actually run over to the bridge here, grab one of the life preservers, hurl it off into the waters. Groovy. Riding around York on an old rusty bike, talking about ghosts. What am I doing? That's how it goes. I'm down with the kids. Mrs. Deathley's still here. So yeah, this whole area would flood. This was used to be known as the King's Fish Pond, this area. You'll notice that the city walls actually stop around these parts and then they pick up again a little bit further on down the road, because this whole area was once underwater. It was a man-made dam, and it was called the King's Fish Pond because it was full of fish, and it was caused by William the Conqueror, who was the king at the time. King's Fish Pond. Oh, there's loads of youths coming. There's youths coming, friends. They got fishing rods, they mean business. If you've never encountered a live stream into the internet where a grown man in an old dusty suit fights a lot of teenagers with fishing poles, this could be the night of your life. So we're just waiting on the traffic lights again. I'm having flashbacks. When I do the Ghost Bus, I am stuck here for so long, so often. The Black Swan is so close I could reach out and tickle it. So just bear with me as we get our way past this area. But he loved those fish. He loved them like the children he never had. And he used to box them up and send them overseas. Feeded armies, visiting dignitaries would welcome to York, have a fish. So if you were caught poaching from the King's Fish Pond, the first time you'd lose a hand. The second time, you'd lose 2 hands. The third time you were caught stealing from the King's Fish Pond, well, if your rod and tackle, snip, clean off, clean off. I'm just going to find somewhere safe and sound to stop now, because we've got a little bit of a 2-for-1. I almost forgot about this lovely old bird. We've got the Church of St. Cuthbert's coming up here. I need brake lights. Mrs. Deathley almost keeps colliding at the back of me. There she is. Look at that lovely old bird. Now, the reason why I point this out is that there are graves there, some of which were cholera victims, and at one point the water supply to this area ran through that graveyard, ran past all those bodies. And cholera, I'll be honest with you, was a bit of a leaky way to go. It was a little bit unpleasant. Toot toot. So your water supply would run straight through the middle of it all. Lovely. We're just going to advance a little further to the Black Swan. And we'll take a little breather there. Oh, to the right. The things you see, friends. The things that you see. here she is. Oh, what's this? Okie dokes. It's going to come to a stop just here. Mrs. Deathley and I didn't communicate about hand signals, unfortunately. There she is. The Black Swan of York, Peasholm Green's finest. Now this building actually dates back to 1729, I think that's right. No, wait. That is wrong. The building dates back to 1417. It actually began its life as a house for the Lord Mayor of York and his beautiful wife to live in. These days, as you can see, oh God, it's the bar guest of York. It's come for us. Rum. There are so many ghosts inside of this old building. We could, again, hover around here for a few hours, but I'll just run down a few of them. There are the waiting spectres of York, Catherine and Albert. Catherine likes to stand by the bar, her white dress illuminated by the light of a flickering flame, even when one isn't lit. Albert sits in the snug. Little round gentleman wearing a flat cap, checking his pocket watch, said he's waiting for their long-lost loves to return to them, which they never do. Get too close to either of them and they simply disappear. People see a black cat running around in the snug that bears an unlikely resemblance to Salem, the cat that actually resides here to this very day. And the seat that is often left unoccupied, that sits in the fireplace, is said to be cursed. It is advised that if that is the only seat available in the house, you stay standing. It's really not worth your time. Right, attached, seagulls are attacking. Off we go. So we're going to make our way into the city centre now. We won't be hanging around there long tonight. We're just going to take a nice ride through. Past the Shambles, past Whitmer Gate. If you're absolutely gagging to see the city centre, join me in a couple of weeks. I'll be back on foot. We'll be starting our tour from Monkgate Bar, making our way down Goodram Gate. Be hitting up a load of things we haven't talked about before. But for tonight, we'll just do a little bit of a drive-by. Shambles, the great flesh shambles of York, Whitmer Gate, neither here nor there street, neither this nor that street. For the sake of brevity, we're just going to roll straight through. And we're going to go find ourselves a little bit of Dick Turpin, a little bit of Dick Turpin. See what he's been getting up to. Now, annoyingly, for the last few years, I could have turned left here and I would have made my way straight down to where Dick Turpin resides. But at the moment, they've changed it. That's a no entry one now. The Shambles just here to the side. The Church of All Saints and Pavement in front of me. Just going to go quiet for a moment while I concentrate on not getting run over. We'll make our way through Coppergate, Church of All Saints there, to the right. Alley-oop. Past the Three Tons pub. This is the most dangerous pub in York for me because at 6'3", I have beamed myself on the low-hanging beams of this pub so many times, it's unreasonable. And then we're going to just turn around the corner and we're going to head towards Clifford's Tower. Again, we won't be hovering around Clifford's Tower for too long tonight. Engines engage. Dun dun, bum 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 bum. Ba da ba ba da ba da ba 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 da ba bum. The old courthouse is there. People say that when they're waiting in the courthouse, they can sometimes feel as if there's a presence in there with them, something breathing down the back of their neck, awaiting judgment. And then here she comes. Clifford's Tower. We'll just do a little bit of a lap around the roundabout. St George's Field is absolutely heaving with people. We'll just take a little turn up here and do a brief pit stop at the bottom of the stairs before moving on to the final resting place, alleged, of Dick Turpin. There we go. Weak. Got me cable caught. Apologies. There we go, figured it out. Oh, that's not bad, is it? So the hill, of course, built by the Vikings. William the Conqueror looks at it, thinks that's good, I'll make it better. Look, they're going to fall and they're going to make ghosts. This is how ghosts are made. People wandering around these parts late at night say they often hear the desperate, low-hanging drone of a man in agony, begging to be released. They say it is actually the spirit of Robert Aske, who was actually hanged in ropes and chains right there, outside the front of the tower, left to die. A long and agonising wait. In the end, it turned out to be wind blowing through the windows, which was a bit of an anticlimax, but it's the truth. But yeah, we'll be back here in a couple of weeks' time. A bit more nitty-gritty. But I know you're all desperate to meet him. Man of the hour himself, Dick Turpin. Let's go see what he's got to say for himself. St George's Field there is said to be haunted by a gentleman wearing a tricorn hat on the top of a horse, often believed to be Dick Turpin. But we believe it's not him, we believe it's another highwayman. Dick Turpin was very good at taking the credit for things that weren't his. And in a moment coming up on the left-hand side of us, scenes of horror and terror. It's a Wetherspoons. You don't want to be in there too late on a Friday night. You don't really want to be in there ever again, really, did you? I don't know. He didn't do very well at the start of all this, did he? Old Tim, is that what he's called? Wurzel Gummidge. We're going to make our way past Postingate Tower, and then we're going to hit the brakes, and we're going to hang out a little bit with Mr. Turpin himself. He's going to get them feet going. Whoa, get that unlimited exercise in. Pedal power. Woo! So once again, just a quick reminder, if you are enjoying this, somebody watching me there waving out the window, that's amazing. Whee! If you are enjoying this, paypal.me/Dorian Deathley. We'll slap a link up at the end. But we're just going to get ourselves over towards Turpin's grave, just at the ready. This is Leadmill Lane. This is my favouritely named street in York, actually. I love a little bit of alliteration. As you might have spotted, Dorian Deathley's Deathly Dark Tours. Leadmill Lane. I know the middle word doesn't start with an L, but it's close enough for me. So we're going to get myself up here, pop over and detach ourselves, and we'll see what there is to see. Ah, good, it's unoccupied. Alley up. So, here we go. I'm just going to get a quick swig of water from Mrs. Deathley. How you doing, love? You hanging in there?
Right.
Good, good. Oh, how does this work? It's a child-safe cap. There you go. You have that. Okay. Let's go visit him, shall we? Oh, hello. Can I pop in?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
No worries, I was going to let him off, but I'll keep him.
Oh, we won't be here for too long.
Oh, well, let's go.
We're going this way. It's not the bar guest. I think it's a lovely real dog. So, you'll notice a lot of stones laying flat in the earth here. But at the back of it all is a fellow I'd very much like to introduce you to. Stand and deliver your money and your life, all that business. The famous highwayman, the legend that is Richard Dick Turpin. Now, I didn't even know he was buried here for a long time. I'm not going to walk out over the top of him, that would be very disrespectful. We'll get a little bit lower down. And there he is. There you go. If you can't make that out, it reads John Palmer, otherwise Richard Turpin, the notorious highwayman and horse dealer, executed at the Tyburn, April 7th, 1739, and buried in St George's Churchyard. Now, excuse me, there's a bit of a point of argument on this one as to whether or not he's actually here. Because when he was hanged in York, out of the Knavesmire, where we're going to be ending the tour tonight, his body was actually laid in state for a brief while. He was buried, but then he was dug up by grave robbers. He was recovered, they think, and then buried here with this heavy block laid on top of him to stop him from being further excavated. But recently there's been a bit of a debate as to whether or not he's actually here. Now, over the years, we've seen all manner of strange things. We've driven around the corner, and we've seen people pouring out wine, a cup of coffee on top of him. And one time, no word of a lie, we drove around the corner. That's where the bus drives so many nights. We shone the torch into the graveyard, and we witnessed a young couple, rather romantically, just going at it hammer and tongs over the top of the stone. Welcome to York. I illuminated them with the torch. They waved back, and a lot of stones laying flat on the earth there. Now, you can't even make out most of these names now because they've been eroded by the weather, the wind and the rain. It's very sad indeed. I'll leave that young lady and her fine dog alone. We're going to make our way back to the Deathly Mobile. I'll make sure I lock them in. There we go. Oh, hello. Rear fix. Technology to bike. Oh, I'm starting to feel it a bit now. And off we go. So, just get away from the road there, that's not particularly interesting. Actually, we'll go this way. We're going to hoof it out now, through Fishergate Bar. Cat to the left. Good evening. Meow's it going? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been inside for too long. Fishergate Bar, interesting one. Smallest gateway into the entrance of the city. But it is said that there used to be a small hatchway on the inside of here where they would just throw people in. Anyone that was a little bit of a danger to themselves and public would often just be thrown into this wooden door and then left alone in there to their own devices. Cycle path, cycle path, cycle path, and off we go. The final stretch. Now, Fishergate Bar is a necessary evil. Makes our way around towards the long stretch of road. I'm going to cut it in half. I can't normally do this on my bike, on the bus. If I go down here on a bus, we'll crash. I'm breaking all the rules. It's a road, I'm fine. This is going to get us around onto Skeldergate Bridge much quicker. And it's a one-way system as well, so cracking. So this is where we've just come from. You'll see the city walls there on the right. You'll see the Weatherspoons in front of us. And we're going to make our way around at the Skeldergate Bridge. Now, Skeldergate Bridge is haunted by a death echo, a shade. He said that a young boy, absolutely devastated and heartbroken, took his own life. He told a young woman of his love for her. He was rejected and he hurled himself off the tower. Now, it's been argued over the time whether or not this was an act of love, whether it's an act of dismal desperation. But all we know is this. This bridge used to be a toll bridge, only opened up to the poor folk after the rich had their way with it. You'll see the tall tower just there on the right-hand side. And it's around that tower where his spirit is often seen standing, staring down unblinkingly at the point of impact where his body hit the water that fateful day. A death echo is a spirit that echoes its final moments, otherwise known as a shade, as their spirit is a shade of its former self. Now, off to the right here, this street that we're not going down leads to a lovely little pub known as the Cock and Bottle. It used to be a stately home owned by George Villiers. Now, you've all heard of this fella, you might not know it, but you have. Georgie Porgy Pudding and Pie kissed the girls and made them cry, because he did. He's a bit of a ladies' man, so he thought. He's wandering hands, causing a few problems over the years. After he died, his stately home was transformed into a pub. The Cock and Bottle was born, and he's haunted ever since. People say that they see a dandy-looking fella leaning around from the gambling machines, cheeky little wink and a wave. Likes to put his energies towards the female bar staff and customers. A few people have reported, as they're using the toilet cubicles in the pub, a pair of shiny and pointy boots sliding their way underneath the door and then quickly retracting into the darkness. Nobody really knows why he's doing this. Nobody knows what he's communicating, but it's happened so often that there clearly must be some kind of message in the madness. So this is South Bank, making our way up towards Bishopthorpe Road. This street actually won an award a few years ago. Best street. It doesn't look its best at the moment. It's been shrunk down. The road has been shrunk down to allow social distancing on the pavements. They've been talking about introducing a one-way system into the city of York, which is going to be bonkers. But needs must, I suppose. And we're going to make our way through now the tenement housing, the terraced houses of Bishopthorpe Road. Now, this whole area was actually built in the Victorian times for the inhabitants and the workers of the old Terry's chocolate factory. The idea was, come and live and work in York. You can have yourself a free house. People snatched up the deal. Absolute bargain to be had. And it is actually said to be one of the least haunted areas in York, but annoyingly, it's one of the longest roads that we're going to encounter tonight. There's a single solitary ghost story that inhabits these parts, and I have named it The Wailing Wealthy Woman of Bishopthorpe Road. Now, she lived here the turn of the 18th to the 1900s, just before all these buildings started to be developed. The chocolate factory of Terry's of York, which we'll be hitting shortly, expanded from a single solitary shop in the city centre, opening up this massive chocolate factory, which you might just be able to see it poking out at the tops of the trees there. Now, she was known for her charity work, her generosity, her benevolence. She was known for having an awful lot of money in her pocket. And one morning she woke up and she simply announced to her neighbours, "The end is nigh. I feel it in me waters." She got this obsession that her number was up, her ticket was about to be punched. And she had no family to leave her money to. And she knew that if she died without finding some kind of inheritance, it'd be claimed by the powers that be. So she started loading up her pockets. She started making this long, agonizing walk into the city centre day after day, finding those that needed a helping hand, and then doing so. Now, unfortunately, a few thieves found out about this, and they followed her home one day, knocked on the door, demanded that she hand over everything that she had. Now, the tragic thing here is, if they'd just gone to talk to her, told her that they were down on their luck, they needed a helping hand, a little boost, I'm certain she would have done what she could for them. But they took matters into their own hands. A fight ensued. She was stabbed to death, the chest, the neck, the throat. She was buried in a shallow grave around the back of her own property. I do know which house it was. I no longer say the number because I used to, and one night some people went round. Microphone. Hello, friends. I'm back. Is that all okay? I'm back. Thought we had a bit of a technical hiccup there. Where was I? Yes, she was buried on the back of her own property. And I don't say which one it was because one night some people went round, knocked on the door and asked to go in and have a little bit of a shuffle around and have a look. Very odd. Now, the tragic thing is that her body was not discovered for some time. When she finally was found, due to the hot summer month, the decomposition and the rot, they picked her up to move her. She was in a sorry state. The body was lifted out of the soil, the head stayed behind. She's often seen wandering up and down this street, headless image of a woman. And she's often accompanied by a low-hanging sob, a weep, a wail, a cry. A wailing, wealthy woman of Bishopthorpe Road. Which, when you think about it, it's quite odd because She hasn't got a head. Very tragic indeed. So we're going to turn our way now onto Terry's Chocolate Factory, onto Camplesham Road. My technology started to fail me a little bit. This stuff has been operating for an hour and 10 minutes, so it's done me well. Hopefully, it is going to make it. Bishopthorpe Road, I often joke when we hit this on the bus, I go, this is the portion of the tour that is based on Alton Towers, because it is a very bumpy, lumpy road. Hopefully we're going to be able to get to the Chocolate Factory and then round the corner to the Knavesmire hanging site. I have come up with a little blinking red light on one of my devices. The drama, the drama. So Terry's of York began its life as a single solitary chocolate shop, not far from the Theatre Royal. The Grey Lady of York resides. 1926, it opens its doors. 2005, they close. They move operations overseas. It would be cheaper, they say. And here she stands. I'm just going to make our way up the road a little bit. We'll pull over and we'll detach and point her out to you. It's flats now. Most spooky old buildings in York are ultimately transformed into flats. I'd love to tell you, people living there say that they see things, they hear things, they experience things, but apparently it's just quite nice. They actually often say that they get a whiff of chocolate making its way up the staircase. Here she is. Oh, that was a long trek, wasn't it? There she blows. There we go. Gated community. If your name's not down, you ain't coming in. And there she is. The clock tower, you can see at the moment, is actually hollowed out. They've been trying to make the damn thing work for some time. I don't think I've ever seen those clock hands work since I started doing my tours, and I've been out here most night for the last 5-6 years. At the moment it reads 4:25, which is not quite right. The other one says 5:30, unless I've been waffling on inanely for about 26 hours. People have actually reported slightly detachment, confusion when they're working in this clock tower. They're trying to make it work. They lose track of time. Hours can skip by. Very peculiar. They can't quite fathom where it is. Now, I would have hung around here a little bit longer, but as our gadgets are ending, I do want to get out to the Knavesmire. And I did say it'd be about an hour 15. There we go. And hopefully we're just going to squeeze through before everything goes off. I could try and off-road it and shortcut across the field, but I'm not sure it would be the best idea. Oh, just bear with me a moment, folks. I see what's happened here. One moment. Okay, just this little guy has worked a bit loose is all. Bear with me. There we go. That should be a little bit better. Whew. Okay, should stop tilting horrifically now. So here we are on the Knavesmire Road. And this area would often be packed to the brim. Thousands of people turning up for executions. 1379 to 1801, thousands of people were executed here for their various wrongdoings or crimes. And it was an absolute height of entertainment. People would travel from all over the country just to watch them swing and dangle and fidget and twitch. In 1801, we moved the executions into the city centre. The height of it all, we had 7 sets of gallows. This was the biggest one. I'm going to bean it. This is exciting. Am I going to get to the Tyburn before the phone battery dies? Ladies and gentlemen, if it does cut out, I apologise profusely. I hope you've enjoyed yourself tonight. I hope you've had a wonderful time rolling around the city of York. This absolutely bizarre little experiment of mine. Oh, I'm so close, I can see it. The Tyburn is just through the tree line there. The Tyburn of the North is the name that was awarded to the Knavesmire execution site because we did such a cracking job. And the Londoners were like, yeah, you can share our name. We're called the Tyburn. You can be called the Tyburn as well. Where is she? She's just over the road there. You know what, folks? I'm not sure if it's going to happen. We've got quite a long way to go so far. But Dick Turpin was hanged here, April 1739. He was marched out here, the noose was placed around his neck. He actually bought a fancy coat, a lovely hat. He was waving at people. He was asking people questions. Are you going to come to my execution later on? It's going to be the best one York's ever seen. And it was a huge turnout, but not the most attended one. 15,000 people turned up to watch William Dove be executed in the city centre. Thousands turned out here. Oh, the excitement. It's just up the road. I'm going to gun it. I'm going to give it everything I've got. I've gone through a big cloud of bugs. I'm going to get us there. I'm doing this for you, friends. The excitement is unreal. Whew. My little device is having an absolute fit. The lungs are burning. The legs are furious. But I can see him. He's just up the road. Dorian Deathley, tour guide, all-round idiot. Vastly underestimated how out of shape he was. But here he is. Oh. Quickly detach the thing. I'm going to get us there. Yes. Ah, oh, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, he makes it to the Tyburn of North, to the Tyburn of York. Oh, there you go. Such victory. Ladies and gentlemen, look at my hair. I hope you've enjoyed this rather ridiculous